This podcast is a 98 Studios production.
Today's the day, baby.
Today's the day.
Today's the day.
Today's the motherfucking day.
Today is the day.
Today's the day.
Today is the day.
Today's the day.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to Today's the Day with Zack Anderson, as always, and I'm excited for this episode. Already been talking with Miss Chari. We have some connections. I'm excited. But I'm really excited. I don't know your story yet. I don't know hardly anything about you, so it's going to be as new for me as it is for everybody else. And these are some of my favorite episodes because it's fun and I don't know all the answers to the questions. I don't know any of the answers. So first and foremost, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you for being here. I know you're busy. You have a million other things you can be doing. You're barely walking right now, and we made you walk down the stairs.
Good.
So thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. But let's start off and kind of kick it off with your story, people getting to know you, anyone who doesn't know you, Miss Chari Pack. You tell us about you, give us the story, where you from, and then we'll dive into everything.
Orem High Tiger.
No way.
You betcha.
Okay, let's
Class
go.
of 93.
Let's go. You know my aunts, you know my uncles for sure, no doubt, for sure.
We'll have to get into that.
Yeah, we will. We'll talk about that after. That's a little bit more personal. So, Orem High Tiger, born and raised though, how'd that go?
Born
Rewind
and raised
all the
here.
way.
You want me to start from the beginning?
Very beginning.
Whew, we could be here all day.
I know. That's the point. That's the
You
point.
know I'm old enough I could be your mother, right?
No, you're not. I don't believe that. I don't even
Everyone's
believe
gonna
that.
shut off the podcast now. Great.
I don't believe that for a
listen,
second.
you guys. Let me give you a few teasers. Started my business when I was 35. So there's no, you're never too old. It's never too late.
See, that's already a curveball.
So yeah,
we'll
get
hang
into
on
that.
because
we'll
we're
get
gonna
into
get to that. That's gonna be
don't
good.
change the
That's a
channel
good little
yet.
teaser. I like that. At 35, and you guys, I haven't mentioned what business you just sold because most people listening are gonna know exactly what it is, and I'm excited for you to get into it and you to go into it. But let's rewind all the way.
Okay, I'm gonna rewind.
Growing up,
So,
let us get to know you.
Growing up, I was the oldest child, 5 kids. Dad was a seminary teacher here in the Valley. Mom
Was that back when it was
Mom-
early morning still?
Did we do early morning in Utah? I don't
We
think
had
so.
to
You
have at
probably
some
didn't go
point.
anyway.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gone.
I'm just kidding.
That's one of the only classes I didn't quite get through, but I did love seminary when I was in it. Brother Means was the man.
Oh boy.
He was
Okay.
great. See?
Yeah, no, he wasn't early morning, but he was at Orem High, and it was hard. It was hard to be the seminary teacher's daughter, but
Yep.
it's all good. So grew up, and we were just, not well off family. I had to buy everything.
Mhm.
So I learned how to work from a really young age.
Mhm.
Grew up babysitting, and I always loved photos,
Okay.
cameras, taking pictures. Grew up with my grandpa had these old videos that we would watch, black and white videos, home family videos, and every Sunday we'd watch our own family videos. And my mom was a big scrapbooker,
Okay.
and so just loved just kind of where we came from, and just reminiscing with photos. And then when I was a young child, 5th grade, I had these babysitting jobs. I mean, I was working since I was probably born, selling coloring
Always.
pages, door to door in the neighborhood, doing the little cards from the school that they would send you home with to sell
Yep.
wrapping paper, whatever.
Yep.
And probably at about 5th grade, I started really loving photos. And this was back in the film days. So probably a lot of you don't know what that is, but it's making a comeback. Film's making a comeback.
Jack will geek out about it with you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Jack likes the film
Okay.
cameras. Yep.
Perfect. So yeah, really loved taking pictures, and I would pose the little kids I would babysit and try to be a photographer. And then I would spend all my babysitting money on pictures. But then I remember in 5th grade that our school didn't have a yearbook yet. And I was super social, and I'm like, this is stupid. We need to have a cool yearbook. So I made scrapbooked a yearbook for
No
the
way.
5th grade class and sold it for $5.
That's awesome.
And yeah, just
That makes so
pictures.
much sense. We're going to get into why, but that's so perfect. Okay.
Yeah, so just kind of grew up like that. But then, a lot of us, we get into our adolescence or a little older, and sometimes the family that you grew up with kind of falls apart, right?
Mhm.
So my family kind of had a falling apart. I went on a mission. I always had this inner drive. I always love a good challenge,
Mhm.
and I always like to prove people wrong.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think I was the kid that was she won't even make it till she's 21.
Yeah.
I was kind of the, I don't know, rode the fine line in the rules
Yep.
kid. So I'm forget that. I'm going to prove to all these people that I will go on a mission and I will convert. And so that was when girls were 21. So I
So
did
you had
that.
to literally wait until 21 and then go.
Mhm.
And then where did you serve?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, I love Atlanta.
Yeah.
I love Atlanta.
Yeah.
That was probably a fun
Bible
mission.
Belt. It was fun.
That was
It
probably
a
a
good
fun
time.
mission.
Not a lot of girls back then. So it was really like there were 18 sisters on my mission. So it was hard. I'd be like, P-Day, I'm like, let's go biking. Let's go do cool stuff. And it was hard.
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine a white girl from Utah walking around Atlanta
Hey.
with the Book of Mormon in hand, knocking doors.
Sister
That's
Johnson.
I've knocked doors in
Yeah.
Atlanta. That's why I say
Oh,
it.
you
So,
did? No
mhm.
way.
Not on a mission, but making money. Yeah, knocking in Atlanta. I love Atlanta. So served a mission. That's really cool as well. That's unique. Was there anything on your mission that was like profound, substantial, breakthrough moments at all? Or was it just like, hey, I'm going to go prove everyone wrong? You went and did it. It was a breeze and then you came home.
Oh, it wasn't a breeze at all. Like,
Tell me about it.
I mean, it's the hardest thing. I mean, you guys have probably talked about missions here,
Mhm.
LDS missions, for those of you listening that don't really know what that means, but you kind of give up everything and you go and serve. And I love the service part of it and helping others. And I like to do things outside of the box.
Mhm.
So it kind of gets me in trouble sometimes, but I feel like we don't always have to be in a box. And so I think a few things, like, I think I taught my mission president a lot of things. Like, for example, we were in an area where there was like it was very remote, and it was out in almost close to Alabama. It was a little town called Carrollton. I don't know if you
where
ever
that is.
knocked down.
Mm-mm.
Probably not, because the homes are so far apart. And we were teaching this guy, and he was also a tattoo artist. So I'm like, this is a teaching opportunity. We'll go in and we'll get some tattoos, and we'll
No
spend
way.
some extra time with him.
No way.
And so I got this little tattoo on my mission. And my mission president's like, okay, all right.
Did your companion get it with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
No way.
So you're thinking outside the box, and that's a great way to contact. And eventually he got baptized. So it was a great teaching opportunity.
That's classic, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, missions are the hardest thing ever, but it really turns you into, I mean, you have to sit with yourself, and you have to really learn how to, work hard. There's really no days off.
Yeah.
So
I think a mission is one of the most valuable things. Most people that come on here have served missions, and they talk about it too. So that's awesome. So then you get back from your mission. What's like your state of mind when you get back from mission? You're at that point, you served 1.5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Women serve 1.5 years. So you're 22.5, right? Almost 23 years old. What was like your game plan, your mind frame? Was it just, hey, I'm going to go home and go to college? Like, what was your game plan before you get into everything else? Because like you said, you didn't start your business till you were 35. So what was your game plan
That's
getting
a good
home?
question. I feel like we have done a disservice in Utah, in our culture with, I don't know, women. I think it's getting a lot better than it was 20 years ago, but that we just are supposed to get married, stay home, have kids. And so that was kind of my next thing. You have to remember, this is back before we really had the internet. I mean, It kind of was around. So it's like, I couldn't Google like how to do things, like I probably would have been long gone if I had the internet when I was in high school, like traveling and doing cool stuff. But there wasn't a lot of opportunity there. So when I got home from my mission, I did the shoulds.
So when you say, I have a question on that side question and pause story, disservice by having it be like, oh yeah, you should, you get home, you get married, you have kids, you stay home, you're stay-at-home mom. Like that's like traditional. What's a better way to go about that in your opinion? Right.
For our society?
What disservice do we do to people by doing that? And what's a better, if you could choose the message that gets relayed to women going into their 20s, starting their life, what would you choose it to be?
Women in their 20s. I just feel like, well, for sure, I feel like women really should try to maintain their identity while being a mom. Because I feel like that's a really hard thing and it's just a natural thing. Like you become a mother and you give everything to that kid.
That becomes your life rather than still having your life and being a mom.
And then there's all this mom guilt that goes along with it. And there's just so much attached to all of that. We're almost our own like enemy with our mindset, and that we should be doing this. And I had a mom and a grandma that was like, oh no, you need to go home and fix your husband lunch. And like, that was their generation. And so it was kind of how I was taught. I remember my mom would get so mad when I did start my business. She was like, you're always on that computer. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm gonna be paying your bills in 10 years. So it'll be fine. Just trust me. Yeah.
Sit back.
Yeah. So, it was, I think we're getting better, but we don't have to get married at age 21, and we don't have to It doesn't have to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And I mean, so many people, I ended up getting a divorce actually. And so many people that I know that are now my age have also been divorced. And it's like, well, obviously that didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we making that the should be or the
Mhm.
have to and stuff?
So more than saying there is a different should be, you're saying it's like, there's a million different right ways to do
Yeah,
it. There's
exactly.
not one right way to do it.
Exactly.
Is what I'm
Mhm,
gathering in your
yeah.
opinion, which I agree 100% with. I think that's awesome. Okay. So you get home, you're in the mindset, kind of the next steps, right? And that's a mission thing too, not even just a Utah thing. That's like, from what I understand and all my friends, that the second they get home, that's their next thing to do is find someone, get married,
We're
settle
taught
down.
that before we go home. You know, mission president's
Yep.
like, go home, get married, start a family.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I did. I married my high school sweetheart. We had 3 little boys. And I mean, side note, my family that I came home to was kind of a mess. Like my brother had committed suicide 2 weeks before I got home, which sucked because he was sent home from his mission early because he struggled.
Yeah.
And so he dealt with that shame, and which sucks also for our culture.
And that's your little brother. You're
Yeah.
the oldest.
And then my dad like was already kind of crazy before that, just like bipolar ups and downs and like things. And then my sister was pregnant. Like this is the stuff I came home to. So I feel
Just
like
mayhem.
subconsciously I was like, get me out of here. Like,
Yeah.
all right, let's get married and peace out.
Start
like,
our own life so
yeah.
that one can be like.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, yeah. So then got married a couple years later, had 3 kids, and just kind of lived that life. Like, you know, doing everything for your kids, and stayed home with them and worked at the Gap for like 10 hours a week.
There you go.
That was it.
There you go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So became a mom, and we'll talk about that a little bit later too. I have questions regarding all that stuff. And then what? So that was how long? Then when did the divorce happen? Or like, was it messy? Was it kind of calm? Like,
It's so weird.
happened
Like,
after?
isn't it crazy how, well, you're still so young, but like when you start your life or when you're younger, you think, okay, this is how I want my life to be. And I'm such a goal person too. And I always am thinking long term. And so when you're thinking this, it's just weird because it's always taking twists and turns.
Always.
And you've got to be able to pivot. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that I learned the hard way. But yeah, so wait,
And I think not only pivot on that point, before I go back to my question, on that point, not only just pivot, you have to be able to like embrace it a little bit and lean
Yeah.
into it. Cause like I am super young, but I've like things that I thought were 100% going to be how things were going to happen it's not even close to what I thought life was going to be. And in a lot of ways, it's actually better, which is really cool. But I've also had really good advice from people. It's like when things aren't happening how they're supposed to, try and look for how that could be how they're supposed to be happening. Right? Like try and find the way that it's happening for you, not the way that it's happening to you, and lean into it a little bit.
Totally.
And I think that's been so freaking helpful. And sometimes I'm just very resistant. I'm not good at it. I'm like, no, F that. Like I want it to happen this way.
Yeah.
And that's when I find the most amount of turmoil, the most amount of frustration. And then eventually it happens anyways, because I'm not going to win
Yeah.
the battle.
Are you kind of a control person?
Very much so.
Like
I'm
I am
very,
too. Because I
when
grew
you
up
say
with
goals,
chaos.
it's like, yeah, like exactly. Chaos. So I want it to be so planned out. Like it's probably annoying. Like my girlfriend laughs. Like I like lists. Like I make a list, and if I'm not doing my list throughout the day, I'm stressed. And like I like lists of like, okay, like this is when this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, and if it happens out of order, it like stresses me out. So I totally relate with what you're saying, and I think the best advice I've ever gotten is to look at things, to just echo exactly what you're saying, to be okay with pivots. It's more of like embrace the pivots, because for me, when I have done that, and I'm not great at it, and I'm also very young, I don't have a lot of experience with it, it's also like the most exciting, the easiest in a good way. And like, it like you get past the sucky part really quick.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Way quicker than you would if you try and like resist it way more. So that's what I would say. So I forgot my question as well, but that I think that's super important. So then as you're going, what happened next? So you got married, you had your kids.
Got married, had kids, and I just still love taking pictures and family videos. And I had 3 little boys, and we never had like these moms that were my age had like craft rooms, and I never had this craft room. And so I saw when my youngest was about 1 or 2 years old, I saw this lady that had this scrapbook page that she made on the computer. I'm like, what? You literally made that in something called Photoshop? That is crazy. And so I'm like, I got to learn this Photoshop thing. Like I can do these scrapbook pages. It was really hard to like put my kids' baby albums together because it would be like taking out all the paper and glue, and then I have to put it all back. And it was a total hassle. And so I'm like, wow, this is cool. I love computers. I'll figure out Photoshop. So I went and took a night class at UVU, like a Photoshop 101 or something class so that I could make my kids their photo books. And so did that. And I don't know why my brain works like this, but okay, so I did that. And then the teacher was this guy from Allen's Camera in Orem. His name was Rex. And it's still in Orem.
Allen's is the OG spot.
Cameras, yeah.
Yep.
But if you go into Allen's, bless you, Rex, you know this. It's so unorganized and they have boxes everywhere. I'm like, how do you guys even do inventory? Like, this is crazy. But okay, let me back up. So Rex is teaching this class and I'm like, okay. And so I'm learning how to do these 12 by 12 scrapbook pages. And the only place to really print them is, I probably should have brought one so you can see. Have you ever seen a scrapbook?
Yes, I've seen a scrapbook. Yep,
Tanner has.
I have.
Okay, so these prints, the only place you get them printed was like Costco or Allen's, but Costco was $3.99 a print, and Allen's was like $12.99 a print. But Allen's Camera was such better quality, and if you're spending like 10, 20 minutes like making this picture page, it's like you want to have it look right when you print it. And so I went to Rex and I'm like, look, your prints are so much better. Like, how can we make these cheaper? And also there's this huge like niche market that you don't even realize because you're a dude and you don't scrapbook, but that are out there. Like, there's all these forums and blogs and things of all these ladies that are like scrapbooking.
Yeah.
And he's like, really? Okay. And so, and I went to college. Like, I have a 2-year degree in business that I got, I don't even know, when I was like 25, and it took me 6 years to get it because I had to pay for everything. Like, I paid for college. I hate debt. So I'd pay, a semester at a time, 3 credits at a time while I would try to work. And so that's all of my background. I didn't really know a lot, but in my mind, I knew that there was something more and it just made sense. And so I went, so I started a business with Rex called scrappingsimply.com, but I knew nothing what I was doing. I had my little 2-year-old, I'd bring him around and I'm like, Rex, listen, we're going to make this website. And so I would go home and I was like obsessed. I'm like, I'm going to make this website. I checked out books from the library, like how to build a website. And it was on this platform called Joomla. It's really old. And I'm trying to like code and put this all together. And so about 8 months I worked with him, but really, okay, at the end of the day, I really didn't want money. I just wanted this really cool camera that just came in called a Nikon D90 because it had video and photo on this new DSLR.
Double whammy.
Yeah. So that was my goal. I'm like, listen, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I can't really drop $1,200 right now on a camera, but I'll help you like create this business, and in exchange, just give me a camera and I'll work for a couple months. Well, we launched it and it started making good money. And I convinced him to get those pages down to $1.99 each. So it was half the price of Costco.
With the quality of Allen's.
But also there's like a 70% markup on those that you don't even realize.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you're still making the same amount of money. It's the same process as printing a 4x6 picture that's 19 cents. The same packaging and shipping process. It's just a bigger print. And it takes a little bit longer to print it. But other than that, your raw material costs are the same. A little bit the same. So anyway, convinced him to launch at that price point, and it like took off, and they kind of didn't know what to do with it. And so 8 months later, I'm like, wait, I'm still this partner with you, but it was a total verbal contract.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know anything about LLCs or anything like that. And it was doing really well. And then I learned the hard way that it didn't mean anything. Like this little business that we had launched, it was a DBA of Allen's Camera, which is doing business as. So it's not like I'm building something that I could sell or that it wasn't really mine.
Yeah.
And it was really
just an extension of
frustrating. Yeah. It was just frustrating learning the hard way. But sometimes that's the best way we learn, right?
For sure.
But then I was pissed. And so I'm like, okay, like you just wasted 8 months of my life. And now I've like created all of these relationships with all these scrapbookers, and I went to expos and just recreated a network. And this is right when Facebook had just like kind of started getting going. So this is in like 08, 09.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. There's a little bit of luck there too.
That's awesome.
And anyway, then I just said, you know what, this isn't working, like obviously, so peace out. And so I had this huge customer list. I had just the whole everything, but I didn't have a printer. Yeah. So
That was the next step.
That was the next step.
I love that. So I have a question at the origin of all of that. First off, that's awesome. Like that's the reason that's awesome and the reason that's so cool to me and so unique is because you saw somebody go and do something and you're like, oh, that's really cool. Photoshop at the very beginning of it.
Yeah.
Right? Photoshop. That's really cool. I'm going to go learn how to do it. And then not only is like, oh, that's really cool. I'm going to go learn how to do it. There's 99% of people who listen to this. They're like, oh, I've had one of those thoughts too. Like, oh, I want to go do this. And even me, there's a million things where I'm like, oh, that's really cool. My question for you, and first off, my praise to you is you went and then took a night class as a mother of 3. Your youngest was how old?
Like 2.
Like 2 years old. No excuses. Just went and took a night class to learn how to do Photoshop. That way you could go and do it because you wanted a scrapbook, right? And then that turned into something bigger. And then it turned into even more as we go and progress even further. That's really cool. My question in all of that is like, where did you go and get like I don't even know what the word is really that I'm looking for to just go do that, to go learn it rather than just like, oh, that's cool. Like for example, that thought probably crosses a lot of people's mind in a lot of different ways. Like, oh yeah, that'd be really cool to go learn. I would love to go and learn to do that. And then they never do a dang thing ever to go and learn it, ever. Right.
Well, I feel like this generation, there's a lot of anxiety and fear in a lot of things, even just getting out of the house and going to a class by yourself, right? Or doing something like that. I've never had a ton of fear, and which kind of gets me in trouble sometimes. But I feel like, you guys that are listening, if you're in your 20s or 30s, like let all that go as best you can. Because when you really get into life and like you're my age and my 40 somethings, like nobody gives a shit about you. Yep. Like they don't. And so we are just doing ourselves a disservice by not doing what we want to do because of fear. Yeah.
I think that's a perfect answer. So then what the opposite of fear, like in that not having fear, you still had some type of like drive. Where does that even come from? Just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go take a night class and do it and learn how to do it. And then just keep progressing down that path. Because the reason I ask is because you didn't go into it with the thought in mind of, I'm going to go start a business to get a camera. You didn't have all these reasons to do it. Your sole reason for going and taking a night class and learning how to do Photoshop was that you wanted to go and Photoshop a scrapbook page. That's the part that's remarkable because there's a lot of drive with very little why. Unless that why is just way bigger than I'm realizing.
That why is my damn kids.
Got it. You're like, I'm going to go scrapbook for my kids.
Can they appreciate those stupid scrapbook albums, please? They're like collecting dust in my basement now. It's fine. But yeah, just my kids and just like the means to an end. And I'm like a very no debt, like really practical person. Like I'm probably one of the few women that doesn't have like a Louis Vuitton bag. I literally like... So I'll go do it myself or figure something out before I'll pay someone to do it. Like you can pay people to make you photo albums or you can, do stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm super practical and I'd rather figure it out and do it myself.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I love that. Yeah, that was one of the things throughout that. And then there's a lot of other pieces, but that specifically stands out a lot. And I think the advice you gave is perfect because I think there's a lot of people with a lot of really good ideas or inclinations or just like, even fun things. I'm not even saying business related. I'm like, you want to go and learn how to ski? Go freaking ski.
Dude,
like,
so many people are like, I want to go on a trip with you. Let's go. And then I'll be like, hey, here's the link.
And they're
Sign
like,
up.
ooh.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, just go do
I think people overthink things too much.
Yeah.
Like
100%. 100%. I think that's
just
very good
up.
advice.
Get out of bed, get straight up and go.
Show up. Someone, I think it was Alex Dunn came on and said, just do it and then figure it out later. Like
totally. That's how I started my whole business.
Like,
I didn't like I never even had a business plan. It was just like, just go do it, figure it out.
Exactly. And he says, everyone tells me, he's like, all these people come up, they want to be entrepreneurs and they want to start a business. And they're like, how do I do it? And he's like, you start a business. Like you haven't started a business yet. So you're not an entrepreneur. So what advice do you want? And I'm like, that's huge. I remember that when I talked to Alex Dunn, he said that and I was like, damn, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, just go do it. And that's business related, fun related, whatever you want to go and do. Like I would say fear is probably the biggest block of that, you would say. And I agree with you 100% on that. I think that's golden.
Yeah.
I love that.
Overthinking for sure.
I love that. So resume, you're pissed off, right? You're so pissed. 8 months of your life wasted, but you not wasted because of what you learned actually has you where you're at. So it was actually a massive blessing, right?
Yeah.
But hindsight's 2020 in the moment.
Totally.
8 months of your life wasted. You're
so
pissed.
Mad.
Don't have a printer, but you have everything else. Now what?
Like I just knew it was going to be a great thing. And so this is like 2009 and I wasn't really big in, like, I think we owned a home, but the market crashed. So I don't know if you guys heard of that.
Oh,
How old were you in 2009? Were you born yet?
Yeah. We were around. That was a tough time for us. That was a time of like, I think we were saying prayers like asking God to fix the market, if I remember correctly, but that
Yeah.
didn't work. And we definitely didn't capitalize on that either, which would have been really cool. But I remember that time, 2008, 2009, very well.
Yeah. And part of like the not overthinking is like naivety. Like I like went into creating a business like so naive. And
Which is kind of a superpower.
totally,
Yeah.
because you don't know what you don't know,
Yep.
and you have to figure it out on the way. But if somebody told me how hard it was later, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah,
So for sure.
that's awesome.
But so yeah, I needed a printer. So I was like, ugh. And here's the thing: is being a stay-at-home mom is an amazing thing. It's the hardest job ever. It's very unappreciated. You
Mhm.
know, a lot of times it goes unappreciated, overlooked, all those things. But I always had something in me, like I hate complacency. I get so bored. Like I can't just do the day to day to day to day. So
Mhm.
I wasn't really out to like build a business. I didn't wake up and go, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to start a business.
Yeah.
And my husband had a decent job. He was a financial advisor. I mean,
Mhm.
it took a long time to build a book, but we were doing okay, you know?
Mhm.
And so it wasn't a money driver. It was just like a pushing myself. And maybe it stems from the mission, or when I was a child, it's like, no, like people tell me I can't do it. And so I'm going to do it.
Mhm.
And that even comes into the photo industry too, because at that time we were switching. There was this whole shift in the market from film to digital.
Yep.
And people are like, nobody's printing pictures anymore. Why in the world would you want to start a photo lab? And I'm like, see, no, you just challenged me right there.
Now
Like,
I'm gonna go
thank
do
you.
it. Now I have another reason
Yeah,
to go
exactly.
do it. That's awesome.
So I went, like I knocked on doors. I looked up photo labs all over Utah. I like would order from each one to number one, check the quality. And then number two, I would go pick up my order from all the labs. There's one in Springville. There's one in Pleasant Grove. And I'd go pick up my order, and I would also say when I picked up, hey, is the owner here? You know, thanks for this order. By the way, I have this business and I have all these customers, and I need a printer. So is there any way that you could, do you have time to chat about it? And
were you looking to go buy a printer or to like have a partnership?
so both, but these printers, so these are darkroom printers. They're so different than like any other printer. I'm really like passionate about like archival prints. So it's a
Mhm.
special print. It's like darkroom printing.
Cool.
And so a brand new printer is like $110,000.
Oof.
And so these businesses already have them,
Yeah.
and they're already printing. They're not at their full capacity though. And so I'm like, can we partner, and like we'll print my stuff later in the afternoon and ship or whatever. And everyone was like, no, like, who are you? I'm like, have my kid in the car. And they're
You're
like,
picking up a picture of your kid and your kid's in the car. That's
they're
perfect.
like, who's this lady? Oh, she is crazy. So, but like a month later, I get a phone call back from this guy named Kenny. And some of you that are listening might remember, but there's this little place in Orem off of Center Street next to Chuck E. Cheese. There was a Chuck E. Cheese over there in
I
Orem.
love Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
That's my
right?
jam. That's my jam.
R.I.P. Chucky. He's
Yep.
gone now, but that location anyway. But right next door was this Kenny's photo. And I had gone there like when I went to all the photo labs. And Kenny calls me back and he's like, now what are you doing? Okay, yeah, let's chat. And so I was like, yes, this is awesome. So I went over, I chatted with him and told him what had happened and what like this customer base. I had like 6,000 customers on an email list. And I'm like, listen, like I can blow this place up. Like you just got to give me a chance. And again, my naivety. Well, first of all, when people say it's hard being a woman in a man's world, it kind of is for various reasons. One of which is it's not like I can go, hey, bro, like, let's go hit some golf balls and chat because I'm a girl and he has a wife. And there were some jealousy issues with the Allen's photo thing. And there was just some issues, which were weird. But anyway, so then when I went to Kenny's, I'm like, look, like we have to make sure like our spouses are okay with this. Like I'm a woman, you're a man, like partnering. So we went to dinner, like my husband, his wife, and
Smart.
yeah, just like I want to, put everything out there, whatever. And then he's like, okay, but like we're 50-50, right? 50-50. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. So I went and had an LLC drawn up by a lawyer and signed it 50-50. I had no idea what I was doing. But what I didn't realize is I just entered into a marriage that we didn't actually like love each other or care about each other.
Yep.
And that works for some people. It didn't work for me.
Yep. 100%. That makes sense. So why did it not work for you? What went wrong? Like, how did that transpire? You go sign a 50-50 contract, ownership of this LLC. He's got the printer. You have the customer list. You're doing printing. You guys are splitting profits 50-50 is what it sounds like from your agreement. How does that go sideways? Like, how is that not just a really good situation?
He always was gone. And so like we had one employee and he would do the printing. And so I'm like, I am busting my ass over here. And like, dude, you're always on the mountain. And like, what? And then like little things like I wanted to expand the business and get another machine so that we could print Christmas cards. And, you know, it was 50 grand. And any money that we made, he wanted to draw. So whenever you have a partner, anybody that's drawing, you have to both draw equally. And he would be like, well, you can just draw later. Let me just draw now. And I'm like, this just sounds fishy. Like, and I literally did not know what I was doing.
Terrible idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that went downhill pretty fast. But in the whole time, this business is growing. And so I'm like, oh, and you get deeper and deeper and deeper into it. It's like, I can't quit now.
Yeah.
Like I just did all this.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we literally went to like mediation, like we were married. Like there's business mediation. You can go to like a therapist, like a third party that sits there while you fight. So that was fun. And then finally, and he wouldn't like, he wouldn't, I don't know. Anyway, long story short is he was in a lot of debt. And he kind of had me coming in to bail him out. And he was a great guy, had great prints, great reputation. But
and it was working. You were bailing him out.
Yeah, I was billing him out. And he was also commingling assets, which I didn't know what that word meant until we went through this, where he was still running Kenny's photo, but with the paper that Persnickety bought.
Got it.
So yeah.
Got
So
it,
I
got
started,
it, got
and
it.
I don't think we even said the word Persnickety yet, but
Now we have.
okay, now we have, guys.
Cat's
So
out the
listen,
bag.
let me back up a little bit. I get ahead of myself. So I left Allen's, joined with Kenny, and I'd already bought a few domains. And me being the cheap person that I am, because I'm scared of debt and I didn't want to have an investor or anything, I just like bought the $10 domains. And one of them was persnicketyprints.com.
And that's the origin story. It was a $10 domain. That's where we came up with it.
And it means fussy about the small details.
Hey, there you go. That actually works really good. I like that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's what it meant at all.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So then you go through your business divorce type thing, or how does that even play out? You go to mediation, they can kick one of you out of the agreement, or what?
Nope, never can. That's why a lot of businesses like dissolve or fail, because their, you know, partnerships will fall apart, decision making at the top. And so no, the commingling assets, Kenny wanted, he kind of did some devious things. He tried to sell the business like without me knowing. I'm like, dude, we've been doing this for like 6 months. Like, you can't, how do you sell it? And he's like, it's worth millions. I'm like, no, it's not. Anyway, so I got a really sweet, like, third attorney by the time I got a really good attorney. And he pretty much was just like, dude, let her buy this from you. Like, whatever your assets still are in this business, or we're going to take you to court because you're stealing. So that's kind of how it ended.
So forced them out.
Yeah. So I got a loan on my cars at 2%.
Which you hated.
Which I hated. It was a $60,000 loan that I wrote him a check for $60K. And I'm like, peace out. Go ride your bike. And he bought a Sprinter van and off he went.
There you go. That's a win-win, right?
Yeah, win-win. He's probably happy.
He's stoked. That's awesome. So then now it's just you. You're solo running it. How do you go change it?
And I'm like, what the hell did I just do?
Yeah. And you're freaking out.
Because now I have a storefront. Now I have a
and you hate debt.
on. Yeah, and I hate debt. But I solved that really fast. Like yeah. So in the first 3 years, we went from 0 to $1 million in revenue.
That's so awesome.
So it was really cool. It took me a long time to learn how to manage costs. Like, I think that's another part of business where it's like, I think we trick ourselves too. When we all hear like, so-and-so raised 10 million in capital or whatever, like that just means it's debt. Or so-and-so, you know, they did, you know, 10 million in revenue, but like, were their costs 20 million? You don't know.
Yeah.
And so my costs were higher. And then by like year 3, 4, 5, 6, like I got my costs a lot lower so that there could be a lot more profit.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. So then from there, did you go and just take off? Because you gave it away first 3 years, got to $1 million in revenue, which for prints that are, your price range is what? $1.99 to $5, $12, $15. So you're just cranking volume, cranking customers, like taking care of so many people to go and scale that. That's really cool. And was that just like, what were the hardships there? When you're finally solo dolo and you're running it, it removes some trials and then brand new ones.
Totally.
More
like
money,
it's
more
give
problems.
and take, right? I mean, here's the thing. Oh yeah, we'll talk about write-offs later, but tax breaks. But yeah, more money, more problems. And that's what's so funny is my driving force has never been money, but it's just the passion behind it. And I knew that it was such a good quality product, and I knew people needed it. And I knew the minute, like it was yeah, I just knew it. And I wanted to serve people. I love when people are like, thank you so much. This, it's an emotional job. You're printing like funerals and weddings and baby births and things and people, and just helping people. Like I've probably given so many prints away for friends and family with funerals and stuff like that. And it's just like a cool thing to be able to have the opportunity. But the first like 3 to 5 years were horrible. And
What part was horrible? Like, what do you mean horrible?
not horrible. I shouldn't say it like that. Challenging.
There you go.
Super challenging.
Challenging.
Very, very hard. And most people probably would have just like put their hands up and quit, but I just couldn't quit. I've never been like a quitter. Like I'll run until my knees fall off. Like I can't quit. Yeah. So, yeah, it was tough. I had no idea what I was doing. I put an ad in like KSL. I remember the classifieds, and I said, now hiring. And I hired like 5 people in one day. And I'm like, okay, guys, here, can you do the schedule? I'm like, whatever your name is, you're in charge of this. You're in charge of this. You're in charge of this. And here we go. And it was October of 2010. And Christmas was just coming up, and that's like our busiest season.
Yeah.
And we would have walk-in customers, and we'd have people that needed stuff right then. And I mean, there's so many opportunities that I was just like scrambling. Like, we got to help this person. We got to take care of this customer. But then I also had the e-commerce side. So we're doing in-store customers, but also online customers and shipping. And, I mean, for the first like 6 months, I would be handwriting names and taking my son with me to the post office and standing in line while the lady weighed every single thing, because I didn't ever buy this. I couldn't afford the scale yet, and the ship station account.
Just so inefficient.
Totally inefficient. Anyway, so yeah, the first 3 years were tough, and then I just would make money, buy more machines, and hire more people, and just keep cranking.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So another piece that you said that I think is super, super, super important, and you brushed over it because to you, it's probably not a big deal, but it's a really, really big deal. You're like, most people probably would have thrown their hands up and quit in the first 3 years. And that's actually 100% accurate. 95% of businesses fail within the first 5 years of the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you said, but I just don't quit. And I think that is exactly probably why Persnickety got to where it got, and so on and so forth, right?
It might be ego, but yeah.
No, that's the question. My question is, where do you go pull that? Because I'm very, very similar. Like, if I'm really bad at something, I almost like, I cling to it more until I'm really good, and then I'll put it down.
Yeah.
But if I pick something up and I'm bad at it, there's no part of me that's okay putting it down because I'm bad at it. Like, I have to go figure out how to get good. I just don't quit. I just don't. Like, that's just not. And like, I know where that comes from for me, but for you, like, where does that come from? Is that like an innate thing? Was that like from your mom, your dad? Like, where does that come from? And what kind of importance do you see in that?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of answers there. Yeah. I think a lot of it's innate. I think, people put like ego and pride in this like bubble of these are bad things. Right. And I think there's how many people in the world, billions of people in the world. We're all different. We all bring different things to the table. And I think pride and ego and not wanting to fail and showing up and like proving yourself, really makes a great entrepreneur, because you don't want to quit. But yeah, it was I think a lot of it, it could have stemmed from childhood. I've done a ton of therapy, but where, you want to show, I was the oldest child. I was like, look, Mom, Dad, I got straight A's, but they were so focused on all the other kids. I was trying to prove my worth.
Mm-hmm.
So there could be some of that in there too. It's like, I'm trying to prove my worth. Like, look, I can do it. Look, I can do it. Yeah.
For sure.
I think with business too, you have to be so patient. I mean, that's something that I always tell people when I try to consult with startups is sometimes it's timing and just being really patient, because it takes a long time to build wealth. And a lot of people see everyone's end result, and they don't realize the hardships that happen before
100%.
It gets to that.
And patience isn't sexy. Like, patience isn't like the grind. Like, for whatever reason, people love like, oh, you just go hard. Like, all of those other like attributes or parts of the formula to success. But patience is like the least attractive and it's least talked about and the most overlooked, in my opinion. Patience is so important, 100%. And then I also really like, and tell me if I'm like interpreting it correctly, but ego and pride, like they get categorized into a very negative category typically, but really what they are is they're not good or bad, but they're a tool, and how you use it determines how they are. Is kind of what I'm understanding.
Yeah, let's write that down like a quote.
You said it. I just changed the wording.
No, your
a little
wording
bit.
was great.
I just changed the wording, but I like that a lot as well. I think that's a really, really cool principle. So then going forward, right, you get through the first 3 years, the first 5 years, so you're beating out 95% of other businesses. You get your revenue up. Did you go and button up all of your inefficiencies and that was the next focus, or what was the next focus, and what were the big things that really took it to where it got to?
Yeah, I mean, all of those things. The luck part came out when like Instagram launched in 2010, and then we
Was
were
that
like,
just mayhem?
yeah, because it was all about photo and like editing and filters, and then also no one else was printing. I mean, my competition was like big box companies, and they could the thing that's great about small business versus big corporate America is it takes corporate America a long time to pivot. They got to go through all the channels, right? When you're small business, you can like throw something up on your website tomorrow and sell it.
Yep.
And so I'm like,
that's a really good point. I've never.
Oh yeah, I mean it's awesome because you really can just call the shots.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started printing square, and we were like the only online photo lab that was printing anything square.
And Instagram was all square at the time.
All square. And so, I mean, it really blew up with that. We started. I mean, our software. I mean, I had to deal with software and product development and
did
email.
it scare you? So I'm so sorry to cut
you're
you
good.
off. Did it? And this just popped in my head. Did it scare you as things went way more digital? Like, I bet you print, and I could be so wrong on this, and I probably am wrong, seeing as though it obviously worked. But like in the moment, was there a part of you that's like, oh crap, maybe people aren't going to be printing nearly as much because everything's just on their phone?
Totally.
Like that's their scrapbook, is their Instagram. They're not going to want to go print something.
It's a harder sell for sure. You have to tell them why. You have to teach them like, this is why you want to print. Like, do you think Instagram is photo storage? No, like it's not going to be around in 30 years.
Yeah.
Maybe, but like also at that time Instagram and Facebook were compressing photos to 600 by 600 pixels. And so it was hard to print anything larger than like a 3x3, 4x4.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're a little bit larger on the back end if you want to pull them off. But people that use social media for photo storage are really doing themselves a disservice because you can't do much with them. They're just really low quality, so that they can load quickly. And then when it comes time for, pictures for weddings or things that you need printed, you can't print them.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we're kind of in this bubble now where, I mean, social media's been around for 10, 15, 20 years now. And, I think people are starting to realize that.
Yeah.
Like, we can't rely on Facebook to keep, it's not going to keep our legacy alive. But
that's awesome.
I can't remember what your question was. The digital part, the scary part.
Yeah. I'm just because
sure.
it looks like you actually pivoted and used it to like, you're saying that was like booming. And there's like the counter to that is like, that could have been detrimental. If it's like, you can't go and sell people and convince people like, yeah, you should still be printing stuff. Like that's not photo storage. It could have been the opposite.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm over exaggerating that. Maybe I'm not entirely sure. But
marketing was easy. Influencers weren't even invented yet.
Yep.
And as well as algorithms.
That's so crazy. I remember that. That was right when I was in like junior high, high school. Like junior high actually was Instagram before. I remember like my friends now that are like big influencers, they were like the first ones in Utah. Like everyone's like, why is like a company having them post? And it was very like a weird concept. And then it's like, it's crazy. It actually is crazy. That's a total
It
side
has
note.
all shifted
Instagram's,
so much.
It's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's so freaking weird.
It is. But it's wild. But yeah, here's the thing. In any industry you're in, there's going to be like hard times, ups and downs. You're going to have to come up with a new product, a new whatever, right? And so you can sit there and you can let it die, or you can reinvent yourself over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were constantly reinventing ourselves. We started out with that 12 by 12 digital scrapbook page at $1.99. It is still to this day $1.99. It's kind of like our bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
But
you're like Costco. You don't change the price of hot dogs.
Absolutely. It's the Costco hot dog.
I love that.
100%.
That's amazing.
Everything else though, and how do you beat out other people when you're a small business? Like we could kill it with turn times. We could kill it with customer service, and quality and things like that. It's a little bit less scalable when it's a really dialed in service. Like I wanted it to be a boutique service. Like I wanted moms to come in. We had a little kid play area and we would bring them water bottles while they got on the kiosk and ordered their prints. And I wanted it to be an experience, an experience when they opened their box of photos and they had this emotion come up. And so all of that was a great way to differentiate us from our competitors.
For sure.
And I don't even know where I was going with that.
No, I think that's perfect. Well, I think that's also really, really important as well, is it's like there's some value. You've actually pointed out a lot of values in being a smaller business.
Totally.
That a lot of people don't think about, because I feel like the end goal when you start a business is to get it as big as quick as possible. But then you're kind of, from what I'm understanding, and in your situation and with Persnickety specifically, there's a trade-off. there's a trade-off. For the bigger you get, you kind of give up some of the freedom to go and have that type of experience. And I think there are some companies that are able to scale and also maintain that, which is kind of like a very, very cool dynamic to it. So you get to the point where you're dialed, right? You have your experience dialed. Were you loving it? Like, were you stoked at that point? Or were you like, oh, I'm going to do this? Like, then where was your head at? Like, I want to go do it bigger. Was it, I want to create a better experience. I want to sell this thing. Like, and also, when was that timeline wise? How long ago was that when you finally got to the point where it was like, okay, we're beating out competitors. We're utilizing Instagram as like a accelerator more than anything. Like, we're in our own corner. Like, we're doing our own thing and we're crushing it. Like, what was that like? And also, when was that? And then also after that, what was the plan going forward?
That's what's crazy is I literally did not have a plan. And like I said before, I was 35.
It's kind of a common trend here, and I'm liking it a lot.
It's crazy. Like I was 35 years old, stay-at-home mom, 3 little kids, and I had mom guilt. I missed a few soccer games. I never had a nanny. I was just like juggling. I'd stay up to like 2 a.m. and I'd be like emails and phone. Like I still to this day like read every single email that comes in because customer service is so important to me. And like,
have you ever read the book Raving Fans?
Mm-mm.
You're embodying it. It's awesome. It's a really good book.
Who's the author? Do you know?
I don't know the author of Raving Fans off the top of my head. I read it a long time ago, but it's so good. It's so good. You're explaining
I'll
it
have
perfectly.
to look into it.
It's really
But
good
we
book.
were like obsessed. Like we would call customers like, and photos a little bit different because someone sees something on their phone or their camera and they want it to be printed just as is. And people weren't understanding. There was a lot of education because they didn't understand digital versus film. So film, I don't know if you guys realize this, when you develop a roll of film, the person actually developing it has a lot more control than you think with contrast. It's like how long the film stays in the developer.
So
and
they can totally change the way it comes out.
Yeah. So like that matters. And so,
digital, you hold the power as you're editing it and
a
sending
little
it in to
bit
get
more.
printed.
Yeah. But then also like resolution, like, so you'd see on your phone or your computer and that's 72 DPI. I mean, we don't need to get into all the terminology, but like,
You'll lose me if we do, but I'll pretend to know.
but yeah, so you don't have to have a high resolution photo for online viewing. And so people would see their picture on their phone and then they'd get their print and they're like, why is this blurry? Well, a print needs 300 dots per inch for it to be sharp. And so we were literally like calling people in Illinois, Nebraska, and we're like, hey, yo, like Betty, like your picture does not look great. Do you want to send us a new one? I don't want to ship this. You're not going to like it. I mean, we were like over the top customer service. And you do lose that when you get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yep.
But it's crazy. People would prepay. Like I started this thing that's called print credits and people would give us hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like we'd make $100,000 in 3 days because we'd go, print credits are for sale. And if you're selling to women, any discount, they will, I mean, it's 25% off and they would just give us all their money. And then we would put these credits in their account and they could like redeem them anytime.
No way.
And it would just, it would blow up every time. But we had created this like brand of trust because we would call people or because we had such great service that they just trusted us and they would just give us their money and they would just print whenever. So that was really cool. But the other thing I want people to understand too is you don't have to have millions of dollars to start a business.
Yeah.
You really don't. An idea and you can really get really scrappy. I mean, we live in, you can Google anything. I Googled everything. I'm like, what is a DBA? What, how to build a website from scratch, whatever. You can learn anything online. And I didn't have investors because I think one thing that also really drives me is freedom.
Yeah.
I don't want to be owned by anybody.
Yeah.
I don't want to be owned by a bank. I don't want to be owned. And to me, I guess money, I don't want all the things, but I want freedom. So to me, financial freedom.
Money equals freedom in a lot of
freedom.
ways.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And then what you said just a little bit ago is very, very cool as well. And it's something Brad Rosser, he's a guy I work with. He says all the time, he says in today's world, and I think it actually comes from Tony Robbins, in today's world, there is zero lack of resources, but an immense lack of resourcefulness.
Totally.
And like you're spot on. You can literally Google how to do anything. Like I have a buddy I have a lot of buddies who've gone and started things or they do things. And it's like, they have no background in that. And now they're running a full scale business doing it because they went and looked up how to do it and then told someone, yeah, I can do it. Like hire me. I'll do it for half the price. And then that's how they went and built their book of business. And it's like, there is no lack of resources, but there's a massive lack of resourcefulness, which I think is super, super important.
Yeah.
And then also
sure.
Money is also like, I think money gets categorized, how we talked about pride and ego get categorized in like these negative things. Like money, sometimes if money's your motivator, people view it as a negative thing, but it's actually not it's what you do with money that determines whether it's positive or negative, because it's just a magnifier.
Totally.
And money absolutely equals freedom. And like in my industry, I have people that like they're on this path to go and like set their life up forever. And like because it's hard, they want to go do something else, but they'll use the excuse of like money's not like that important to me. It's like, no, that might not be, but being able to do all of these things when you're a dad is probably pretty important to you. And that's why money should be important to you, because
Absolutely.
when you get
Well,
there,
now in hindsight that I've sold the business and I'm just living on passive interest
You're
off
like,
of
"This
money,
is
I'm like,
sick."
dang, why wasn't my money more of my driver? Because
but it's so important, because it can also be like the most detrimental thing ever if money is your sole focus and your sole reason. Because then if it is, then you get the freedom and you can't spend your freedom on anything. If you have no relationships and all the money in the world, you are just depressed and rich.
Totally. And I
Right.
think there has to be some level of passion, whatever
Yeah.
it is, passion to earn the money so that you can do something else with it.
Yep.
Passion in what you're selling,
Yep.
passion in what you're doing. Because if I didn't have that, I would have for sure just been like, what am I even doing? But it was
100%.
a lot of passion and a lot of scrappiness too. Like luckily in 2009, 2010, 2011, the market crashed.
Mhm.
And if the market crashes or businesses go out of business, you guys scoop up everything. Like I bought machines that were just like so cheap because photo labs were closing.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if you remember, there was a bookstore called Borders Bookstore in Riverwoods.
Mm-mm.
So it was just, it's kind of like Barnes and Noble, but
Yeah.
it was down in Riverwoods, and they were like, all these places were closing in 2011. And so they would have like these liquidation sales. So I went down there and I'm like, okay, like we could use like a customer service desk, and we could use, so like even today, if you go into Persnickety, Prince and Orem, the customer service desk is from Borders Provo in 2011.
No way. That's so
And we
sick.
just like upcycled everything.
See, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that a lot. So then that kind of leads us to where you're at, right? Unless we're missing anything in between. You get to the point where you go and you just recently sold Persnickety, right?
Yep. 6 months ago.
6 months ago.
Mhm.
Was there like some like and I assume the answer is yes, but I'm curious if what it was like. Was it like exciting but also like heartbreaking, and like how was that? What was that
Totally,
like?
all of it.
Oh, I want to hear about that.
Whenever I feel like you start a business, nobody cares about it as much as you do.
Yep.
It's your child. This was like my fourth baby, and I always called it that. And I honestly had this little bit of fear that if I ever sold it, like I wouldn't have an identity, because people will see me and they'll be like, oh, you're that Persnickety lady. And like, I'm like, dang, if I sell this thing, I might get really depressed and like not have a purpose.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I got to the point where I was kind of the bottleneck of the business. Like there's so much opportunity there, especially with all like software. Like I literally never even paid like a digital advertising, like ran Google ads or anything like that. I was wearing all the hats. And sadly, like I would try to, I really feel like investing in your teams is so important. The people, like no one can do it just themselves. And so I would try to invest in teams and find people that are teachable and that work hard and that I could build up. But I don't think I built them up fast enough. Like turnover is hard.
Yeah.
So I was doing everything by myself and trying really hard to empower other people to, you know, be over social or be over. But I did social media for 13 years. Like I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, yeah, it was hard to sell it. But why? I was making the most money I'd ever made in 2023. COVID was amazing for us. It was hard as hell. No one knew what was happening. Employees were gone half the time, and we had to do like curbside pickup and all that crap. But people were home and they were printing photos, and we like pivoted and launched these like COVID journals, and people were journaling about their experience and all this stuff. So we made great money in the last 3 years. And so even my husband's like, why are you selling? Like you have the greatest tax benefits. You're making so much money and you're not even in there. I was probably working like 4 to 6 hours a day, but it wasn't like passionate anymore. It was a lot of like, I just felt anxiety going into work going.
Why do you think that is? Is it because you felt like you were the bottleneck of the business? Is that why you felt that way? Do you think?
And I just felt burnt out, just literally burnt out. And if I could do anything different, I probably would have let go of a lot of things earlier. Letting other people carry the weight. Yeah.
You would have delegated more.
But COVID was like a killer. Like literally I had like envelopes sitting up at Salt Lake Airport. We had like supply chain issue problems. Everyone was doing Christmas cards all of a sudden because they never saw people. And so our sales were great, but I'm like, I need those envelopes. I would drive up with my truck and pick it up myself. And like, you're just always scrambling as the owner.
Yeah. Just spent.
Yeah. But also like the bottleneck part, I feel like, we never even really focused on local. Like we have a ton of local customers that are amazing. But we've never even done a wedding expo. We've never done there's so many more sales opportunities and also white labeling with APIs and different things like that. And having like a full-time developer would be really optimal.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can't manage any more people. Like I can't. And so, so it was kind of finally time.
That's perfect time then. Cause then a lot of people probably hang on to things with the fear of like losing it. They hang on to it way too long to the point that they like resent it. And then
it starts going backwards.
Exactly.
And it's like my child. It's like giving up your child for adoption, but you want to give it to someone that's going to do better.
Yeah.
Make 100%. It better.
That's awesome. So transitioning out of that, now you sold it. You're enjoying yourself there. You've already gone and started something else, correct?
Well, during COVID, I decided to launch an app. So backing up a little bit, during all that hustle and bustle, I wasn't probably the best wife. I'm not going to blame myself, but I was just like so fulfilled at work, and I would haul the kids there and stuff, but like the marriage falls apart. So after 18 years of marriage, get divorced. And it's like, holy shit. Now I'm a single mom running a business, no child support, no alimony because I'm working and I have a business. And so I'm like, this is like how I can support myself. I have a mortgage. I have kids I have to provide for now. And so I did that for, 2 or 3 years by myself. And it was fine. Like we survived. And then I was never going to get married again. I was like, this is so ridiculous. Like I trust no men. I have daddy issues. I have like partner issues. Like no. And then I met this amazing guy named Mark.
You got a winner.
I got a winner.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, if I were to get married, I'd marry you, but I'm not marrying you. I'm not getting married. But anyway, I met him on Tinder, out of all things.
Let's go.
And yeah, right?
Shout out to Tinder.
Yeah. I mean, imagine like, okay, in your 40s and you're like trying to not really date. Here's the thing. I don't really want to date. I wanted to meet new people. Because I grew up here. My husband was from high school. All my friends are from high school. I'm like, I have got to find
your circle. You need
new
to get outside
people.
of it.
I have to. So I would like swipe on guys that were like, looked really fun. Maybe they had a boat or something. I'm like, yeah, let's go boating. Let's go biking. Let's go like do cool stuff. And Mark looked fun. So I like swiped whatever. And then I'm like, wow, like social, like swiping and all these dating apps are like fun, but we're using photos. Like, how can I integrate that into my business? And so I'm like, everyone hates uploading pictures and printing them, but like they love swiping people. So I created an app that swipes. So the app you swipe your photo into a box, and then when you're done swiping, then the box comes to your house.
Shut up.
And prints, yeah.
That's so sick.
So that's kind of how that came up. So
I love that. Now that's
my second baby.
That's what you're doing. Cool.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. I love that. I honestly, time flies, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time, yours included, everybody's. Your story's awesome. I absolutely love it. I have a couple more questions, but I think to ask one question, basically what I have two questions, and they're kind of the same, but they're a little bit different. So with all of your experience, starting a business, being a mom, right? Going through multiple marriages, everything that you've done, a mission as well. Like, what would you say is one thing that you would tell everybody or encourage everybody to embrace throughout their whole life journey? Because a lot of people that listen are either in the middle of their career, or they're starting a career. They have no idea what they're going to do. They maybe are just getting through high school. Like, what's something that you would say, go and absolutely embrace this? It will make everything more enjoyable, right? Flow better. What would you say is something that everyone should embrace?
There's so much.
If
Chari 1.0 could do it again, self-awareness.
Okay.
Is that weird?
That's amazing. No, it's great. To explain.
I feel like if you know who you are, you can communicate what you need. And I mean, there's so much, but I learned, like self-awareness, like how do you, and just really like controlling your thoughts so that you don't base your decisions on fear. And so you can just get out there and do it and not give a shit, because you get this one life. Like my cute little son, my youngest is a senior and he doesn't want to go to prom. And I'm like, dude, like you're never going to get high school again. I mean, maybe it's not important to you, but like, just go do it. Like go out and just live.
And if it sucks, it's one night and then you're good.
Yeah.
Right? That's
awesome.
awesome.
Just try everything.
That's a unique answer. I like that. Yeah. That's a unique answer. Self-awareness. Because then not only can you ask for what you need, but you can give yourself what you need, which is really
Give
cool.
yourself grace and patience, but also like no fear. Like just do it.
Just send it.
Yeah,
I like it. I like
for
it.
sure.
And the second part of that question, and you can't use the opposite of your first answer, is
Oh.
what's one thing that you would avoid? Like, just like avoid this. Like it'll prevent so much heartache, prevent so much trial, unneeded trial at least, misery. Like avoid this and you'll be better off than if you didn't.
That's a tough question because,
You can think about it.
ooh, I have very little regrets, even though I've had a lot of crap, right? But I guess just avoid negative energy or like energy. Like, here's the thing. The greatest thing about this whole business is the people and the relationships that I've met. I have met like you, all these cool people in my life. And they have brought so much that I didn't even realize as being this small stay-at-home mom in this box. But there's also been people that I've let take some of my energy and take things. And so I just think just being really like careful with your time and just trying, I don't know, I needed to trust more, but I probably wouldn't like just give out my energy.
Yeah, protect your energy.
Yeah.
Don't go give out energy. I love that as well. Both really, really good answers. Chari, that was awesome. I enjoyed that a lot. I'm already an hour. It's crazy. It's kind of crazy how fast it goes. It blows everyone's mind and me as well. That's why we have a massive clock right there because I found myself going 45 minutes too long. I think we absolutely should go and record a second episode, 1,000%, get more details, more insight, everything like that. But again, thank you so much. I appreciate you for being here.
Zack.
I know you're busy. It's so fun. Small world too. It's hilarious. So thank you. And then as always, everybody for watching. Thank you guys and much love. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. As always, it was a blast for me. I hope you got something out of this. If you got something out of this video of value, share this with a friend and please go show your love. We're on all streaming platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Any ratings, comments, likes, shares, they go a very long way and they make it so I can keep doing these things for you. And I would appreciate it greatly. So please go share with a friend. Until next time.